Things are getting a little bit intense as well as kind of sad with the reality of what the characters have been through. Here's what happened in more Fallstreak for the last episode. People are like onions. They need to be shaken up occasionally or else they go transparent. Neighbors that had stuck with each other through thick and thin began to turn on one another, painting the landscape sickening shades of scarlet. Those scarlet visions tormented the girl, bringing her such anguish that blood flowed from her eyes as she wept before the village's withered fields. It was then that, from the crimson tears that touched the cracked soil, flora began to spring up wondrously from the earth. Upon witnessing this miracle, the villagers tried to use the girl's power to nourish their fields. But though the girl wept torrents throughout the day and night at the villagers' plight, it was never the tears of blood that they needed. It was in that hopeless situation that the villagers came to a terrible conclusion. If the girl would not cry tears of blood, they would have to take it from her. The only way to garner the blood they needed was by cutting into her body and draining it. A stone shrine atop a hill overlooking the village. The people locked the girl up there, driving her to a state of perpetual near death as they extracted her blood over and over again. It's the only way we can survive was how they rationalized it. Whenever it seemed like the girl was becoming numb and crying less as a result, the villagers had no choice but to devise crueler ways to hurt her. It was a wretched state of existence in which they could only subsist if the girl's blood and tears flowed freely. But even then, the girl never forsook the villagers. With a smile that grew weaker by the day, she continued to cry, thinking only of their sake. However, her smile did not ease the villagers' hearts. They feared it, or were afraid of it. Afraid of what that smile meant, of what they had become. And so, they began to chant. A curse, or perhaps a prayer to absolve them of their sins. A witch. She's a witch. She's the reason the rain stopped falling upon the land. An incorruptible smile that not even layers of blood and tears could blemish. It was the smile of a witch. And while there were none that could turn a deaf ear to the girl's sobs, which tickled without end from the top of the hill, no one spoke of it. Their throats quenched and their bellies full, the villagers chose to not see, to not hear. For the land had begun to flourish and regain its color under the nourishment of the girl's blessed blood and tears. At long last, the people had regained a semblance of the peaceful days they once knew. But there were those who could not accept it. Back in the house, the girl had called home since coming to the village. The young boy whose life had been saved in the forest asked of his mother, "Mother, why won't you drink?" No matter how many times the boy brought a cup of water to her mouth, the mother would not part her lips. The family had been haunted by the girl's tormented cries for many sleepless nights now. "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I'm sorry." As she lay in bed, she would repeat those words to herself without end. "I should have never brought you to the village." The mother had come to be the girl as her own child during the time they lived together. Unable to bear the thought of drinking her daughter's tears as she was tortured day in and day out, the mother had gone without drinking for days. Now on the verge of dying from thirst, the mother spoke to her son for the final time. "Slice of cake on top of ice cream? Aren't you supposed to put ice cream on top of cake?" It doesn't work vice versa. "Please grant your mother one last selfish wish." "This girl. Do you mean Sis?" "Yes, your sweet, beloved sister." The mother grasped her son's hand tightly as she spoke her final words. "Please be by her side." The boy waited until nightfall to carry out his mother's dying wish. Under the moonless, starless sky, he climbed the hill to where the girl was being held. Breaking into the temple from which countless streams cascaded and flowed, the boy was met with a heart-wrenching sight. The girl's small figure had once been filled with the vigor of youth, but now she was barely recognizable. From hollow eyes that had endured the darkest of human despair, fountains of water were streaming unendingly, serving as the origin of the rivers running outside. Sis. Sis. The boy struggled to release the girl from her restraints. But it was no use. Hands the boy had held steady as he taught her how to write. They were now twisted from ruthless disfigurement. Wrists the boy had made little bracelets for from Flora the girl had called forth. They were now melded with the blood-stained iron shackling her. The girl stared vacantly at the boy as he continued his futile attempt to free her, unable to understand. She didn't want him to be sad, but he was not hurt or hungry in any way. He'd even grown healthier since the last time they met. So why? Why was he making such a pained face? Knowing that the villagers would be vexed soon, the boy fell to his knees and began to cry. He didn't want her to be trapped here any longer. He didn't want her to be hurt anymore. But there wasn't anything he could do. That was when he felt a light touch on his chin. Clanking her chains as she reached out with what remained of her hands, the girl lifted the boy's head and began to weakly wipe away his tears. When his vision cleared, the boy saw that the girl had a beautiful smile on her face. A smile just like the time she first saved him. Even when chains had stolen away her freedom, deprivation had wasted her figure, and abuse had dulled the light in her eyes, her smile had not been lost. More than anything, the boy wanted to protect that smile. And so, with trembling movements, the boy reached out and slowly wrapped his fingers around the girl's neck. Really? Unable to stop himself from crying at the thought of what he was doing, the boy tightened his grip. But the girl's smile never left her. Even as the strength slowly left her body, she did not stop. Wiping away his tears, her hand continued to move. It was only when that hand fell back limply to her side that the boy knew it was over. Water was no longer flowing from the girl's eyes, which were loosely shut in a state of peace. Even now, it looked like she was smiling serenely as she slept. Easing her to the ground, the boy watched on as the artificial rivers lost their origin and began to dry. Though he knew the villagers would return at any moment, the boy couldn't bring himself to leave the girl's side. Before long, countless people swarmed to the temple, enraged that their life-giving water had stopped flowing. They could not forgive the culprit that had destroyed the village's foundation and condemned them all to certain death. "You killed the witch! You killed the witch!" "She's not a witch!" To the villagers' outrage, the boy roared back with anger of his own. The girl had wiped away everyone's tears, stopping at nothing to help others in need. But who had been there to wipe away her tears? The villagers seized and beat the boy, dragging him outside and tying him to a stake. Lighting a fire beneath his feet, they threw rocks and cursed the boy as he burned. "You killed the witch! You killed us all!" Even as his flesh blistered and blackened under the flames, the boy continued to cry out, "She's not a witch! She's not a witch!" In a broken voice, the boy repeated it over and over again. "She's not a witch." Those cries fell upon unhearing ears, until at long last, stopped moving. It was then that something impossible began to happen. Something began to fall from the sky. Wet and clear, like the sky itself was crying. It was rain. A certain soul had been bearing witness to the tragic scene. It was the girl who had descended into the sky upon being released from her cage of flesh. She had watched on as the boy screamed in tear-choked agony. Cursed by everyone, forsaken by the world, he died in great pain, his voice having reached no one. She had watched, powerless to stop it, no matter how much she wished to. And so, with eyes overflowing with more tears than ever before, from heaven she cried. Clouds came and covered the sky, raining torrential swallows of water that swept away all in its wake. The girl wept madly, unable to stop even as her tears swallowed and extinguished all life. She grieved alone in the sky for many years, before her tears ran dry, flooding the land several times over. Many millennia passed before the waters finally receded. It was only after eons of solitude that the girl spotted life beginning to take root again. Overwhelmed by the moving sight, she began to sob once more, only to drown the fragile seeds of life. In a heartbreaking turn of events, the land became flooded again as she lamented her clumsiness. It was not until many more eons passed that the waters receded and life struggled once more to take root. Placing all her hope in that fragile, blooming life, the girl vowed deep in her heart to nurture it with prudence. Resolving to cry just enough that it wouldn't wither, but not so much that it drowned, the girl directed her tears to fall from the sky in delicate equilibrium. Occasionally, she would commit an error, disrupting the frail balance and causing a drought or flood to devastate the blossoming flora. In panic and heartbreak, she would weep remorsefully, flooding the land once more. But every time the water cleared away, life always sprang back tenaciously, keeping her belief alive. Repeating that cycle over and over without losing faith, the girl finally saw the day that people roamed the earth once more. For those people, she continues to wait to this very day, suffering without end so they can live on. To this moment, that girl lives on, eternally bound to the sky. When clouds come and cover the sky, some people feel immense sadness at her tears. Others feel soothed, relieved that they have not been forgotten, and holding her timeless sacrifice dear to their hearts. Some innocent children pout, complaining that they cannot play. With a characteristic shift of her posture that indicates she was getting close to wrapping up, Miss Faye flips the final page. Even after being wronged so harshly by them, she continues to watch over and love people. In times of scarcity, when people suffer from the absence of her blessing, she witnesses their pain and cries so that they might eat and drink. In times of war, when people raise the land and commit atrocities, she beholds their sins and sobs so that spilt blood might be washed away. And in times of prosperity, when people smile and laugh amidst flourishing fields, she admires their happiness and waves them mirth so that they might continue to thrive. With a deep breath, Miss Faye concludes the somber story. Whatever, okay? Slowly shutting the book, she leans back into her chair to let the ending ferment in her minds. So what do you think? I think that was a horrible story to tell children. What's wrong with you, lady? You've got like 5 million books in here and you chose that one? Sorry, not the tamest stories, huh? Miss Faye smiles wickedly as she surveys her speechless faces. We're all like completely disturbed by this. What? It's so sweet. Shedding tears that would give the rain goddess a run for her money, Ronan latches onto the closest person to her. Where? I don't know how to, like... Okay. Okay, she's blowing snot on him. With a helpless expression, Trish rubs her back as she bawls and blows snot all over him. Throwing a little asphyxiation, you two could reenact the temple scene for us. Don't give them any, like, clues. Knowing these two, though, our tragic narrative would veer straight into slapstick territory. After all she did for them, I can't believe what the villagers did to the girl. It was inhuman. It was perfectly human. Most people do the same if placed in that situation. Even if I were to die from hunger, I can't imagine doing what they did. We can only say that because we don't know what it's like to be on the verge of starvation. It's not only about yourself as well. Each of those villagers had people they held dear, friends and family that were slowly dying alongside them. If the only way to save your kin is through forsaking an outsider, there's no question what you'll choose. The scale will only ever tip one way if you weigh the life of a loved one against the life of a stranger. But the girl was no stranger to the villagers. She saved each and every one of their lives and suffered beside them. I just can't accept it, how they turned on the very one who reached out to them when they needed someone the most. She must have felt so betrayed, so alone. Well, I don't think so. She was smiling the whole time. What I can't understand is, why'd they start calling her a witch? What reason did they have to be afraid of her? When people brand someone a witch, it isn't really because they're afraid of the person in question. What they fear is something else. In the end, it's an instrument of dehumanization to protect and preserve their own humanity. It lets them do anything to the victim, free of blame. Because you're not a monster if the one you're torturing is a witch. That's the part I hate the most. To brand her as a witch even though she devoted everything to them, it seriously pisses me off. It must have been how the boy felt when the villagers kept calling her that. He kept projecting it until the very end. A solemn silence descended upon us as we recalled the scene in question. It's true, the term witch is more often than not a sign of the sin of the sayer. Regardless of how the villagers addressed it though, what lays as the crux of this story is the concept of forsaking one to ensure the survival of many. It's classic utilitarianism. Did I get that word right? I think I got it right. Oh my god. I fight to the face. I hate that kind of thinking. The idea that humanity needs to sacrifice people for the greater good. I get how you feel, Kalia. But it can't be denied that much of the life we know has been built on the sacrifices of others. God, ain't that the truth? Even so, people's lives aren't numbered to be plugged into some formula. Yes, now I'm gonna mess it up. Utilitarianism is a philosophy for cogs, not human beings. But it's not always the case that humanity takes lives for the greater good. There are times when people willingly offer it up. I don't think we have any right to deny them from doing so. It was a shaky belief. No, something more uncertain. Like a hope. Mother's death on the day I was born. Papa's confession to killing her. The fact that I was here now, at this time, at this place. The fact that she was not. Was Mother's death a sacrifice? A sacrifice to bring me into the world? That's what I'm wondering right now. Like... If so, I wanted to believe. I needed to believe. That she had chosen this path of her own will. That she had wished for it. Humanity will always need a sacrifice, even when it doesn't wish for one. Recall how there used to be rain at the very beginning of the story. It follows to imagine that there was previously another sacrifice that had made rain fall from the sky. A role that is replaced over time, like a cycle that nobody wishes for, but everyone still needs. Miss Faye adjusts her glasses and gives a small sigh. Listen well, children, and listen good. All human beings hurt something simply by being alive. Just by continuing to exist, the choice to forsake something to gain something has been made. There is nothing wrong with that. It is no sin to be alive. There was no mistake. She was looking straight at me. Miss Faye. What are you saying, Miss Faye? To tell the truth, it didn't matter what the villagers did. Even if the boy never killed the girl and the villagers continue extracting her blood, the village's fate doesn't change. No one can survive having their blood drained like that for long. Eventually, the girl would have perished, with the village expiring alongside her. No matter what anybody does, it'll end the same way. Something like that is just too hopeless. No matter how much they struggled, no happy ending awaited the characters in the story. Such was the script they were bound by. Rain is saddening yet soothing. Life is a child that cannot survive without drinking up the tears of the mother that gave birth to it. And yet, in the end, the people were drowned by the very life-giving water that would nourish them. How poetic. Unfolding her legs, Miss Faye rises from her seat. Anyway, that's about all the time I have for you children. Turning to me, Miss Faye pulls a sealed letter out of her pocket. This is for your father, Aid. Be sure he gets it. And make sure you don't peek. I'll tell him he has a new stack of paperwork to finish by tonight. Let's just say the two of us have a long discussion to be had. Though I was curious about the letter's contents, I had no intention of betraying Miss Faye's trust. Thanks for telling such a unique story today, Miss Faye. It definitely made you think. It was pretty messed up, but today's story is one of my favorites. I'm glad I ended up reading it. You better not pull any punches when it comes to intense stuff like this, Miss Faye. The girl's devotion to people was so admirable, even though it was so sad. I really liked it. But maybe it wouldn't hurt to have a cheerier story next week? People fall in love with sad stories as well as happy stories. Compassionate yet cruel. We wish for happiness while seeking sadness. Human beings are such a messy bundle of contradictions. But in the end, isn't that the way it should be? Oh, Miss Faye? Trish is curious what the title of the story is and who wrote it. Unknown, though I can't conceive why. Everything but the text itself has been omitted. A book without a title, where even the author remains unnamed. Don't tell me this is some cliché development where you reveal yourself to be an author, Miss Faye. Ooh, I can see it. Miss Faye is definitely the kind of person that would write a pitiless story like this. Such aspersions against my character. How rude. Miss Faye's sulky face is the best. Don't you think you should dial back on how much you tease people, Aid? She's gonna reveal herself as a trap! As a wise old woman once said, there's more than one way for someone to express their love, you know. Ooh, turn those words back on you. How you like it? How you like it? Uh-oh. Looks like she's seriously about to pop a vein. Time for a tactical retreat. Dear heavens, look at the time. We better be off now. Good day, Miss Faye. Take care, you little rascals. As I don my rain gear and make to leave with the others though, a sudden pain spikes through my right eye. Overcome with vertigo, I lose my balance and bump into someone. Oh, Alouette. You've been so quiet I forgot you were here. Alouette just woke up. Huh, so you were sleeping. For some reason her complexion seemed much paler than usual. Alouette, is something wrong? What's the matter? If you don't tell me with your words, I won't understand. Alouette had a bad dream. Tell me, Alouette. Drawing close, Miss Faye places her hands on Alouette's shoulders. What happened in your dream? What was it about? No. Alouette doesn't know. Alouette doesn't remember. I see. Go ahead and see the children off. If the rain doesn't get better, you're welcome to stay the night. A sleepover with Belly. Sounds fun. But everyone is waiting for me back home. Without responding, Miss Faye disappears deeper into the building. What are you two dilly-dallying around here for? We're all ready to go. Coming. The pain in my eye is still throbbing, making it difficult to gather my thoughts as I follow behind the others. The rain had greatly intensified during our stay, and gotten a lot louder. Its pervasive roaring was as if the earth itself were rebelling against the sky. Well, it's gotten pretty bad. As much as I'd hate to, should we call it a day and go home? You three go ahead. I need to talk with Miss Faye about something, so I'll be staying behind. Alright, guess we'll see you tomorrow then. Make sure you rest up, okay, Abe? Yeah. Upon separating with Lum, I gaze up the dreary overcast sky. Ooh. Look at the pretty colors. It's like a palette of paint. It was there, welling up from deep inside me. A vision of a burning sky. What's this feeling? This feeling that everything is coming apart at the seams. Everything's falling apart. Ugh. Pick up the pace, Triss. We're gonna look like drowned rat cats by the time we get home. The onslaught of raindrops pounded down on us like tiny hammers, rendering Kelly's shouts barely audible. We're running home after separating with everyone else. Something causes me to stop in my tracks though. Okay, so we're Triss now. Triss, we're not getting drier by the moment here. Kelly complains to me as she skids to a halt. But she falls silent when I raise my hand and point to my ear. Though faint, something that clashed disharmoniously against the roaring rain could be heard. Concentrating on my hearing, I wander off the path to the nearby brush. Is that a bird? Something sounds wrong with it. Something that cries tones was hurting my heart. Over there, Triss. It lay in a hole lined with frayed netting. A bow of blazing orange feathers. A phoenix oriole? A species that's supposed to be gone extinct since the fire collapse? Before us, what was surely among the less of its kind was struggling with all it had to stay alive. The bird cries out pitifully, flapping its wings in a desperate attempt to stay afloat amidst the rising water. We need to save it. I spring into action, dipping my hands in the water to try and pull the bird free, but my blind fumblings to no avail. The bird's panicked flailing incessant downpours make it impossible to see. It's drowning. We look on in frozen horror as the bird's head disappears under the surface. Scoop out the water, Triss. Cupping my hands, I shovel the water out in a frenzied attempt to drain the hole. While I'm able to displace enough water for the bird to pop up and breathe, the pouring rain makes it hurt so I can't relent for an instant. If I stop, the rising water will drown the bird in no time. But there's no way for me to free the bird in this state. And I can't keep this up forever. Damn it. Unable to stand by any longer, Kelly throws herself to her knees and plunges her head into the cold water. She must have come to the conclusion as me. We can't see what's trapping the bird from above. Our only option is to try looking for the water below. Cat. Pulling her head above the surface, Kelly spews water out of her mouth as she struggles to catch her breath in thick rain. It's all tangled up in the netting. But though we now know what the problem was, we are no closer to a solution. Can't they just take the netting out? I don't know what the netting is, actually. We simply didn't have enough to work with. My hands were full scooping out the water, while Kalia had nothing to reach out with. The only thing she could do was look on power asleep from the side. Kuh. Her face twisted into an expression I haven't seen in a long time. Bitterness. Frustration. It's always been like this. Even when it's right before me, I've never been able to... I could almost hear it, the thoughts running through her head. No. Unable to accept it, Kelly plunges her head below the surface and bites onto the netting, ensnaring the bird. Wildly, madly, she gnashes her teeth in a desperate attempt to cut through. But though she sticks at it stubbornly for as long as she can, before long she runs out of breath. Cat. Popping up the water that floods into her lungs, Kelly takes a deep breath and dives back under. But no matter how many times she tries to chew through the netting, it doesn't give. The only thing she was accomplishing was tiring herself out. True, we don't have sharp teeth. No. As we repeated our futile cycle, the bird only continued to weaken. Its movements were slowing, its cries growing faint. A realization dawns upon me as my fingers begin to grow numb from the biting chill. At this rate, it's going to die. No. Elia croaks weakly as she dips back under after another unsuccessful attempt. But she's only able to hold her breath for a few seconds before having to rise again. My own exhausting act was taking its toll on me as well. I couldn't feel my arms anymore, but even then, we don't stop. Okay, alright. We can't stop. The sound of falling rain. It was the only thing that couldn't be heard. The bird's cries were no more. Slumping to the ground, Kelly stares on vacantly as water overflows the hole. But even though the bird has ceased moving long ago, I don't stop. With hands that had long lost all feeling, I continue to paw weakly at the water. It's the same. It's the same as that time. In my mind's eye, I can't help but see it. The circle of light above us, so far out of reach. The slippery stone surrounding us, so dark, so cold. Or warm blood flowing through my fingers, so red. So red. Stop. Let go of her. Stop it, Triss. Let go of her, Triss. It's dead. She's dead. Urgh. I grab my temples so that the non-easing pressure begins to build inside my skull. Deep within me, something begins to smolder. A fire was trying to catch. But deprived of air, it forms nothing more than smoking embers. Why? The well's chilly water is slowly running red as the life bleeds out of her body. Something hot begins to leak from the corners of my eyes as images from that time consume my vision. Why? My bloody hands slowly becoming numb with pain as I slam them against the stone walls. The sensations of that day began to meld and overlap with the present, sending tremors rippling through my body. I'm sorry. Her chapped lips repeating one thing. I'm sorry. Repeating one thing. The ashes of a failed fire swell up inside me as the verse presses down on my heart like a suffocating vice. I open my mouth in a frail attempt to release the rage and grief searing me. Unable to produce the words that could carry it all away, I choke and gag pathetically. It was like there was a cork in my throat, with no way to escape the cloud of swirling cinder claws maddening at my insides. I'm going to burn away from the inside out. Words that wouldn't come. A flame that could not be extinguished or quelled. No matter how much I wanted to howl and roar with all my heart, I couldn't utter a single thing. So I start to run. I take off with all my might into the curtain of falling rain. Triss. Elia screams out from somewhere behind me, but her cries don't reach me. With no regard to where I'm heading, I dash forward madly. I just don't understand. Why? Why can't I do anything? Yet again, I was powerless. Unable to even cry out in protest as I slipped through my fingers. Triss! I'm chasing after something, but I can't see what. For some reason, I could barely make out what was ahead of me. Something was clouding my vision so much that I could only vaguely discern its receding outline. Triss! Ah. It's getting away. It's getting away. It's getting away. Triss. Even though the lungs disappeared from view, I don't relent in my pursuit. I didn't know any other way to deal with all the things smoldering inside me. So even though I could barely see in front of me, I continued to run. Forward, forward, endlessly, eternally. Tris. My lungs are tearing to pieces. Heart's pounding into paste. My legs are crumbling beneath me. With no outlet, the hot pressure continues to build up inside me. Like a bottle of scalding liquid that had been violently shaken up. Tris. I'm sorry, Tris. I'm sorry you had such a monster for a mother. I stumble, trip and collapse to the ground. It still wasn't enough. Things inside me were still burning, burning, burning. This feeling of being stifled and smothered, I couldn't stand it. I kneeled to find a release. I curled my hands into claws and began gouging out chunks of muddy earth below. But unsated by its lack of resistance, I began to rip my skin and hair feverishly. I wanted to scream out with all my soul, cursing this world for tearing away what I held dear. I had no voice to protest the world's cruelty. My mouth merely flapped open and shut pathetically like a dying fish. Thump. Someone wraps their body around me, enveloped me in admittingly warmth. Tris, please. Callia pleads to me as she hugs me ineffectually with her stunted arms. I thrash wildly, violently knocking her into the mud. Undeterred, she gets back up and throws herself on me again. Tris, stop. You're hurting yourself. Unable to stand the sense of restraint, I shake her off once more. But even though she can't hold on to me very well, she doesn't stop trying. No matter how many times I send her tumbling into the mud, she stubbornly flings herself back onto me. After a final attempt to subdue me, I collapse face first into the mud, panting heavily as Kelly embraced me brokenly from behind. Our heavy breathing and the rain's apathetic pattering were the only sounds that registered in my dream consciousness. I wanted to close my eyes to the world, to deny everything that made it up. I wanted to disappear, to wake up to a place where everyone welcomed me with warm smiles. I desired nothing more than to hear her gentle voice, telling me it was all but a horrible nightmare. For a moment, I felt like I wished for what would actually come true. But then Callia spoke, tearing me away from the hopeless dream. You remembered, didn't you? How Mommy died? Her words cut into me like a sharp blade, forcing me to stay rooted in reality's cold domain with her. You still carry it with you even now. It lay on the ground before us, a piece of fabric stained with blood. The blood was an illusion, one I've never been able to escape. Mother's handkerchief. After all these years, it had lost its vivid blue tint, leaving nothing but shades of phantom red. It was a reminder of that day. The day Mother and I fell into a well. The day Mother tried to kill me. And the day she died. Thank you for taking the time to watch this video, and if you enjoyed it, leave a like and hit the sub for more walkthroughs, playthroughs, and let's plays on the gaming experience.